I titled this talk, The Porter. Porter. And it's based on the Gospel of Mark. It's another parable about the second coming. It's Mark chapter 13, verse 34 through 36. Let's read this, and then I'll tell you a story that has to do with the porter. Mark chapter 13, verse 34 through 37. For the Son of Man is as a man taking a far journey, who left his house and gave authority to his servants, and to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch. Watch ye therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh, at even, at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning, lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping. And what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch. When I married Linda, we went on a honeymoon, and she had told me, I want to go to a new place, a place you've never been, I've never been, and I want to go to a place that they speak English. So I decided that we would go to Ireland. And we went to Ireland. I rented different hotels. These were old castles turned into hotels. And we went to one hotel, the first one, Dromoland Castle. And I had rented a car, and we opened the trunk. I took my suitcase and I said, you take yours and let's go. And she says, wait a minute. I'm a princess. I'm not a porter. You got to carry my suitcase. And she was right. We need to treat our wives as princesses and queens. And Jesus tells this story about a porter. Let's read it again. Mark chapter 13, verse 34. For the Son of Man is as a man taking a far journey, who left his house and gave authority to his servants, and to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch. Now, if we read that text, we can see it from two different angles. Let's look at Jesus. He was living in heaven. He made a very far journey here to this planet, to planet Earth. And he gave authority to his servants, to the angels. He told Gabriel, Gabriel, I'm going to be a babe. I need you to look out for me. He told some other angels, I need you to take care of me when I'm on earth. The devil is going to attack me. Yes, Master, we will be with you. We will protect you. We will stand with you. When Jesus resurrected, there were two angels there that Peter saw sitting on both sides of his bed. There were millions of angels with Christ. They loved their leader. They missed them. He gave them a work to do, and they would carry it out. And to every man his work. He assigned to everyone, I'm going to be gone. I'm going to be gone over 30 years. And I need you all to do your work. And he commanded the porter to watch. When we read the early writings, Sister White has a section there where she says there are angels at the doors of heaven, and you cannot enter unless you present the golden card. You have this gold card you got to present, and then you can get in. You don't present that gold card, you can't get in. There's a control. I think about the beehive. You know, they have these bees at the door, and they check to make sure who's coming into the hive. And I think of these angels that are assigned. I think of Eden. Look at Eden with the Garden of Eden. And God placed a cherub there with a sword that went in all directions. And for generations, people could go and see this heavenly being. They could see the sword. They couldn't enter. They could see it from afar. He gave to every servant his work, a porter. But let's look at the opposite. Look at Jesus. He's now on earth. And he's a man making a far journey. He became human. He took our flesh. The passions of flesh he had to withstand and fight against. And he took a far journey to heaven. He ascended to heaven. And he left his house. Now his house is planet Earth. If you go to Israel, there's one city that's called Capernaum. You can go there. You got to pay a little fee to get in. And there's a sign that says, Jesus' hometown. Capernaum. He left his house. You know, Jesus had to leave his house many times. He left his house in heaven. He left his house with Mary and Joseph and was a refugee in Egypt. He left the house of Peter. He left his church. We are the house of Jesus. We are the house of Jesus. Collectively, we're part of the family of Jesus. In the Roman culture, and when these Jews are writing, they're writing with the Roman context. There is a word for the householder, and it's pater familias in Latin. Pater familias, pater, father, familias, family. The father of the family. And he has all his slaves as part of his family. As a matter of fact, he will eventually, the pater familia will free the slaves and give them his name. And these servants are slaves. We're either slaves of sin or slaves of righteousness. And Jesus wants to free us. He says he's left his house, his church, and he gave authority to his servants. Jesus said before he ascended to heaven, all authority is given unto me in heaven and on earth. And if he has authority, he can remit that authority and responsibility. With authority comes responsibility. You have privileges, but you have responsibility. And to every man his work. And he said to the porter, watch. 3 times that word watch appears here. To the porter he said, watch. The next verse, Mark 13:35, watch ye therefore. And then the last verse, verse 37 of Mark 13, he says, I say unto all, watch. 3 times watch. Watch, watch, watch. The Jews had 3 watches. They divided the night in 3 times. The Romans came, they had 4 watches. 4 watches. And they're mentioned here in the next verse, verse 35. Watch ye therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh, the Lord of the house. This is Jesus, the Lord of the house, at even, at midnight, at the cock crowing, or at morning. Thieves usually attack at night. War is more successful at night. George Washington, I want you to know, lost most of his battles. Most. He was a loser. But he didn't know he was a loser, so he kept fighting. And one of his greatest battles was when he crosses the Delaware and overcomes the British and the Haitian soldiers that were hired. It was a surprise attack on Christmas Eve. They were all drinking on the other side of the river, and he won this big battle. Christ is going to come like a thief in the night when you least expect him to come. And he says, watch. And the Romans established 4 watches. I believe in the 3 angels' message, and I also believe in the 4 angels' message. Each angel represents a movement of people. So you have the first angel, which was the Millerite movement. You have the second angel, under the leadership of just slipped my mind right now. He proclaimed that the churches had fallen. He wrote an article about it in the different papers. And we have the third angel with Ellen G. White and James White and Joseph Smith. And we have the other angel, the fourth angel, with the leaders, with Brother Welk. And we have the Spank Nobles, and Miller here, there in America. 4 angels' message. For the Son of Man is as a man taking a far journey. And in the Latin version, I looked up the Latin. I went to the Vatican and I bought this beautiful Bible. It's called the Polyglot Bible. And it has Hebrew, Greek, Latin, English, Spanish. So you have the Hebrew, first language of the Bible, the Greek, LXX, and you have the Latin, the Vulgate, the English, and the Spanish all together. And you just read the parallel. It's quite fun. And I have fun reading the Latin. The Latin version says, Sicut homo qui peregre. Well, that has a different meaning. Sicut homo, he's like a man who is a pilgrim. Peregre, pilgrim. Jesus was a pilgrim on earth. He was a pilgrim. We are pilgrims on earth. We need to remember that everything is on loan. And he traveled to heaven on a pilgrimage. He's a pilgrim in heaven. He's representing us. He can't wait to get back home. His home is here. His home is with you, with me. And when we think of Christ, he left Judaism. He founded Christianity. Like Abraham, he left the Ur of Chaldees. Look at yourself. Many of us here are either first or second generation, maybe a few others a little longer in generations. We're the children of pilgrims. I don't see Aborigines here in this congregation. Same thing in America. We have failed to reach the Native Americans. We have Africans, we have Latins, we have Europeans, we have whites. I don't know one Native American in our church. We really need to reach them. And Abraham left Ur of the Chaldees. He was a pilgrim. Peregre. And we are pilgrims, and we cannot forget that. And he gave them authority to his servants, the power of authority. Authority. What is our authority? Our authority is the commission to preach the gospel. When Jesus says, all power is given me in heaven and on earth, he's saying all authority is given to me in heaven and on earth. Go ye and preach the gospel. We have received the authority, the power to preach. The Latin version says, dedit servus seus potestatum. He gave his servants power, potestatum, power. We have power. We have supernatural power. Let's go to 2 Timothy. This is a beautiful text. Paul writes to Timothy. Brother Glenn, you said you're timid, you're introverted. So was Timothy. Timothy was just like that. And Paul was trying to put some fire in him to go about and do his work. And Timothy would suffer so much he would get these stomach ulcers, because he really was a peaceful guy. He didn't want to be messed up in all the church politics and problems that have always existed from the time of the apostles. And Paul said to him in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, potestatum, of power, superpower. We say that America is a superpower. It has these atomic bombs. It has this really strong military, all these drones and lasers. And I'm telling you, they have some new weapons. They've been spending a lot of money on some really powerful weapons. And they're going to show those weapons, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So God has given us power. He's given us love. And he's given us a sound mind. And we need to use all that for his glory. Now, what is our work? He said he gave to every man his work. What's our work? Our work can be different. It doesn't all have to be the same. We can do different things. We had a preacher in the United States. He ordained me. I was ordained twice. First as an elder. Many years ago. I was only 20 years old. That was over 40 years ago. And his name was Andrew Barrett. He was a very good preacher. He was our best preacher in the United States. He was Jewish, he was an American, and he was an artist. He knew how to paint. So in New York, he would put out his stand, and he'd put a canvas, and he'd start to paint, because he read it in the Great Controversy, how some Waldenses would do that. They would paint, and the people would stop and look at his painting. And the Waldenses would do a painting of Jesus and the Pope. And people would look upon one with this triple crown with gold and nice robes, and then a lonely, meek Jesus upon a donkey. And people could see the difference. And Pastor Andrew Barish would do the same thing. He would do these paintings, and people would stop and see, a lion with wings, a leopard with 4 heads. And they would catch their attention. What is that? Wow, that's really neat. And then he'd spread the gospel to them. Others have done missionary work by singing, because they need to announce the coming of Christ. Our work is to announce the return of Christ in different ways. You have a guitar. You can go Christmas time. Go Christmas caroling. Play some tunes. At the people's homes, they'll open the door. Oh, that's so wonderful. That's so beautiful. Thank you. A song. And then they're open to give leaflets. I want to bless you. But to every one their work. What is our work? John chapter 6, please. John 6:28. Can we turn there? Our work. This is our primary work. John chapter 6, verse 28. John 6:28. And it says, Then said they unto him, What shall we do that we may work the works of God? So what is our work? What is the work that God wants us to do? And what does Jesus answer? Verse 29, And Jesus answered and said unto them, This is the work of God, that ye believe on him whom he hath sent. We need to believe on Christ, have faith on Christ. The greatest preacher of the 18th century was Charles Spurgeon. Charles Spurgeon said, and I've said this before, I'm going to repeat it, that there are 3 steps to believing. One is based on knowledge, the knowledge we know of Christ. The next one is based on belief. It's a step higher. But the highest level is based on trust. That you trust someone. A daughter will trust her dad if her dad keeps his promises. If he says, look, I'm going to buy you a bike. You can make me good grades. This summer I'm going to get you a bike. The dad can forget. You think the little girl's going to forget? You think the little girl's going to forget that she's going to get a bike? And if dad doesn't bring me a bike, then that's how she relates to God, to the Father in heaven. If my dad is faithful with me, then I can relate to God who's faithful, who's going to be faithful with me. But many people have not had a very good dad. And they have a very hard time relating to God the Father. I've had a very good dad. My dad has been very loving, hugging, kissing, giving. I love him very much. To every man his work, to every woman his work, and it's to believe. Look what Sister White says. Our minds do not all run in the same channel, and we have not all been given the same work. God has given to every man his work according to his several ability. There are different kinds of work to be done, and workers of varied capabilities are needed. Here we are brought together of different minds, different education, different training, and we do not expect that every mind will run right in the same channel. But the question is, are we, the several branches, grafted into the parent vine? Although we have a different way of looking at things, a different way of training, a different experience, are we all grafted into Christ? Working towards the same ideal, in the same direction, upward and forward. The church is his garden, she says, adorned with a variety of trees, plants, and flowers. He does not expect the hyssop to assume the proportions of the great cedar. The hyssop can never be a cedar, nor the olive to reach the height of the stately palm tree. Many have received but a limited religious and intellectual training, but God has a work for this class to do if they will labor in humility, trusting in him. Now, where is this found? This is found in mind, character, and personality. Mind, character, and personality. I don't have the volume, but it's either volume, yeah, I do have it. Volume 1, page 54. Volume 1, Mind, Character, and Personality. That's a beautiful book. I don't know if you've come across it, but it's excellent. I was in university and I was taking a course on counseling. I took a lot of courses on counseling. And I had this one professor, she was a little scary. I mean, she would call students up, have them sit with her and say, tell me what you dreamed about yesterday. And she would interpret the dreams. And she said so many things that was challenging my faith. And then I came across mind, character, and personality. I said, oh, thank you, God, all right? I can start to put the puzzle together on how to deal with these challenges. I mean, she would take Carl Jung to the extreme. Never been exposed to that before. Somebody just pick out a classroom and tell your dream, and she interprets it, and then it gives you goosebumps. But mind, character, and personality addresses the good, the bad, and the ugly in psychology. There is no excuse for not working, is the point. Everyone has their work. We cannot say, I'm not the pastor. I'm not the elder. I have no talents. I don't know how to play. I don't know how to speak. I don't know how to do anything. It's like these two people that go to get a job. And the interviewer says, well, what do you know how to do? And he says, well, I really don't know how to do anything. And then he asks his companion, his sidekick, and what do you know how to do? I'm his assistant. So one doesn't know how to do anything, and the other one is the assistant. No, we can't play that game with God. Listen to this other statement. This is from Steps to Christ. Many have excused themselves from rendering their gifts to the service of Christ because others were possessed of a superior endowments and advantages. The opinion has prevailed that only those who are especially talented are required to consecrate their abilities to the service of God. Steps to Christ. Steps to Christ, page 82. It has come to be understood by many that talents are given to only a certain favored class to the exclusion of others, like to the elite. Only the elite get the money. Only the elite get the talents, who of course are not called upon to share in the toils or the rewards. But it is not so represented in the parable when the master of the house called his servants and gave to every man his work. You have a work. And you need to ask God what that work is. Some people are going to appear at the pearly gates of heaven, and they're going to knock and say, Lord! Depending on your background, if you're Jewish, Abraham will come to the door. If you're Catholic, Peter will come. And if you're Protestant, Jesus will come himself and say, yes, who are you? And says, oh Lord, it's me. It's okay, you can open. It's only me. I'm alone. And the voice will come from the other side of the pearly gates. I'm sorry, we don't allow people in here alone. You have peace. You have to bring somebody to Christ. We have a work that has been assigned to us to carry out. And commanded the porter to watch. Now, who is the porter? I'll tell you who the porter is. Mom is the porter. Dad is the porter. The teacher in the classroom is the porter. The principal is the porter. The nurse is the porter. The pastor is the porter. The elder is the porter. Anyone who has responsibility involving other people is the porter. And Jesus has said you need to watch. In the Old Testament, the porter was a Levite. And they had the 4 major porters in the temple. They had to watch at night. They had to watch over the treasury. They were the gatekeepers. They were responsible for the flour, the wine, the oil, the frankincense, the spices, the ointments, and whatever was made. On a personal level, take your eyes out and turn them around and look at yourself. You are the porter of your soul. And you have 5 avenues. What we hear, what we see, what we breathe, what we taste, what we touch. Those are the avenues to the soul. And we are placed as porters. The will is the porter, according to John Bunyan. John Bunyan spent 12 years in jail, and he wrote all these books. I thought it was just Pilgrim's Progress, but he wrote many, many books. I believe it's over 30.
Was it 80 something?
I don't know, it was a big number.
Yeah.
We read it for our morning devotional. We were shocked. There's another book he called Man's Soul. And he said the dragon came before this castle that was called Man's Soul. And the governor was the will. The will. You choose. God has given you the ability to choose. Martin Luther wrote a book called The Bondage of a Will. The bondage. We really cannot choose, said Luther, until we meet Jesus. When we meet Jesus and we accept Jesus, then we can choose. We can choose to obey us. He gives us that ability to choose. And we choose what enters into our body, into our mind, through the 5 senses. The Latin version says, vigilaret, vigilaret. He's vigilant, be vigilant. Watch, be vigilant, be vigilant. Make sure you're not thinking, saying, or doing what the Lord would be disappointed to witness. And how many times have I failed the Lord? I've said things I shouldn't have said. I've done things I shouldn't have done. I did do things that I should have done. I thought things that really should not have crossed my mind. Be vigilant with yourself. The will has to give the consent. Watch therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh. The Latin says, Dominus, Domus, veniat. So the Lord, it's interesting. In Latin, Dominus is the Lord, Domus is the house. When the Lord comes to his lordship, when Jesus is going to come back home to us, the master, And I believe he's going to come back in the darkest hour. And we're reaching that darkest hour, the coldest hour, the sleepiest hour. And he says, lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping. That term of sleeping is so often repeated in the parables of Jesus. And throughout the scriptures, they were sleeping. Sleeping. Look at John. Look at Peter. Look at James, the favored of the 12. Jesus says to them, come and pray with me. And they're there in the Garden of Eden. And what are they doing? Sleeping. They are sleeping. And there's Jesus suffering, bleeding. He is really in pain. You know, he's thinking about this cross. He's going to be nailed, that he's going to be shamed, that he's going to be mistreated, and he's going to be whipped. He's seeing it all in his mind. I mean, he knows the future, and he has a trial that you and I do not have. We cannot use our divine power. He could. Imagine this, that you have the power to destroy anyone who hurts you with your thought. Just by thinking it, boom, they're gone. In America, there was a very popular sitcom. It was called I Love Lucy. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but I saw a lot of I Love Lucy. They were in the 1950s. I saw the reruns. After that, Lucille Ball she experimented with becoming a producer, Hollywood producer, and they produced Star Trek. Just like millions of dollars in movie Star Trek. And there's a scene in Star Trek. I mean, I'm sharing this with you, not to tell you to see it, but I saw it as a kid. I was a Baptist as a kid. And there's a scene in Star Trek where this person in one planet, it's called Q, and he can do anything. Anything he thought, anything he said would happen. And so they were challenged to deal with Q. Now, Q does not exist, but God does. And Jesus was God in the flesh, and whatever he thought would be, in one thought, he could have eliminated. And it doesn't make sense to me as a human why he would suffer so much when he could have destroyed the whole human race and created a new race. Why? Risk his godship. He risked when Christ was in the tomb. He would not have resurrected unless God called him out. God the Father sent Gabriel. And unless he would have heard the words, Son of God, your Father calls you, Jesus would not have risen from that grave. And we need to arise from our situation, knowing that God has given us a work to do, even in the darkest hour. Well, I won't finish. We need to awake from our sleep. Matthew Henry, the great Baptist preacher, said his coming will be a great surprise and terror to those that are careless and asleep. A terror, you know, that's our big fear in America today. We have ingrown terrorists. We get some that are imported, but some that are Americans just decide to get a gun and kill people for no reason at all. His coming will be a great surprise and a terror to those that are careless and asleep. That's what Matthew Henry said in the 1600s. An English preacher and commentator. Well, let me tell you the story as we close of the coming of Christ. Is all this just to encourage us to do missionary work, to prepare, not to be asleep, to watch, to be part of the four angels' message, because Christ is coming very soon. Have you heard of Ernest before? Ernest Shackleton. Sir Ernest Shackleton. Yes, there was a great competition around the world to see who would get to the South Pole first. And Ernest Shackleton was a ship captain, and he got a ship called the Endurance. That's what he named it, the Endurance. And he put an ad in the paper that some people say was not true, but I like the story. He put an ad in the paper that We are calling for men who are willing to risk their lives with low pay, sacrifice. You have to.
And the return is uncertain.
And the return is uncertain. Sweat, blood, and tears. Like the great Prime Minister Winston Churchill told the British Empire. And that's what he put in that ad. And so many men wrote saying, yes, we're willing. We want to go. We want to go on this mission. Although we're going to get low pay, we're going to sweat, we're going to bleed, we're going to be cold, and we don't know if we'll get back. 22 men enlisted, and they got in the Endurance. They had a photographer, and they started their sail towards the South Pole from England. And something happened. The winter came in early, and the sea froze, and their ship got stuck in the cold. What to do? So they got on these little lifeboats, and they went to an island nearby. It was called Elephant Island. And that's where they disembarked. And then he came up with a plan. I want the majority of you to stay here. And he put one man in charge, a porter in charge. And he says, I'm going to go and I'm going to come back for you. So these men had to stay on this island. They had to hunt for seal, for fish, whatever they could to eat on this island. It was uninhabited. And many people don't know this, but Shackleton made 5 attempts to get back to his men. In the UK would not supply a military ship that was not too far away, called the Glasgow. That was the first attempt. The second attempt, he got the Southern Sky, a steam whaler that ran into ice and had to be brought to the Falkland Islands. They came within 100 miles. He had to leave. Then he made a third attempt with a South American ship from the Instituto de Pesca number 1 from Uruguay. And he came within 20 miles and he had to return. Then he went to Chile and he got the Emma, the ship the Emma, and they got within 100 miles and had to return. And finally, he got the Yelko, which was only 150 tons. He went into open sea, and he wanted to reach Elephant Island. But the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would put it, is that the man that he left in charge with most of the men, every morning at 8:45 in the morning, he'd wake everybody up and he'd say, hey, boys, lash up, stow, the boss may come today. The same word every day. Hey, boys, lash up, stow, the boss may come today. And one day, Ernest Shackleton showed up on the Yelko, and they were all ready. All the men were ready. They had their sleeping bags because they prepared them every morning in case he came that day. And he did. And not one of his men died. The Queen knighted him and made him Sir Ernest Shackleton. And many have said that was the most successful failure that has ever been met. This planet is going to be the most successful failure. I want you to know Jesus has been wanting to come so many times. He wanted to come in 1844, but the people gave up. He wanted to come in 2 years after 1888, but the church was busy in their pride, bickering over the law of God. He wanted to come during World War I. You know, we had pretty much Armageddon in place. But church was not interested. And I wonder how many other times he's tried to come. Maybe 1948 he wanted to come. Maybe 1951 when the 51 movement left us and started. It's up to us. Do you want him to come? Because he's made many attempts from heaven, coming very close. And says, no, they're not ready yet. We need to go back. Like the angels the night that Jesus was born on earth, the angels were looking everywhere. They went to Jerusalem. Oh, no interest. They went to Jericho. No interest. They went to Tiberias. No interest. They went to all the holy cities of the Jews. And then they came to Nazareth. And they saw this group of shepherds that were talking about, the Messiah is coming. I've read it in Daniel. It's about time, any day now. And then they saw the angels. God has sent us 4 angels' messages. And we need to hear that the Lord is coming back very soon. And we read in this beautiful parable that I say unto all, watch yourself. As Brother Glenn said today, my greatest enemy is myself. We found the enemy, and it is I. Watchmen, what of the night? The gospel writer Isaiah says in Isaiah 21:11, what of the night? Sir Jesus Christ is coming back with his ship, and we need to be ready. God bless you all. Thank you very much. Amen.
Amen.
What is this meeting anyway? Right.